When our ancient ancestors made things, they never imagined that people living several hundred years in the future might find them and wonder what they were. If they had done, they might have included instruction manuals or written explanations with them. Because they didn't, we find ourselves surrounded by incredible ancient mysteries like the ones you're about to see. Psychoactive, mind-altering drugs have appealed to human beings for as long as we've known that such substances exist, but the reason that we take them have changed dramatically over time. To explain what we mean, let's take a look inside this shaman's bag. It was found inside a rock shelter in Bolivia, high in the Andes mountain range in 2019, where the climate has preserved it for about 1,000 years. The bag is made of leather, and inside it are the basic ingredients of ayahuasca. Mix these ingredients together into a drink, tip it down your throat, and you'd soon be experiencing intense hallucinations. To a shaman, these visions contained the secrets of the future. The visions were to be experienced by the shaman alone, so they'd often travel to a remote rock shelter like the one this was found at to go about their rituals in solitude. Also inside the bag were wooden tablets for snuffing, llama bone spatulas, and a pouch made of fox snouts. It's likely that the shaman considered all of these objects to be sacred, so we're left to wonder why they were abandoned in the rock shelter. The most likely but unpleasant explanation might be that the shaman fell to his death while on his hallucinogenic trip. Our next discovery was made at the spectacular site of Duniveg Castle on the Isle of Islay, Scotland. It's the seal of Sir John Campbell of Cawdor, who became a huge figure in the castle's history after taking control over the island in 1615. We're not sure why he dropped his seal, but it was found trapped under mounds of rubble from a collapsed wall in August 2018. Sir John would once have used this seal to sign legal documents, seal charters, and prove his identity. It's made of lead, contains his full name and his coat of arms, and is marked with the year 1593, indicating that he started using it long before he arrived on the island. The Campbell clan and the MacDonald clan fought over the castle many times in the early 17th century, but it was the Campbells who finally came out on top, with Sir John as the head of the family at that time. The MacDonalds attacked again 30 years later, and eventually took the castle back in 1646. It's possible that the seal was lost then as the wall collapsed, but Sir John would have been long dead. Experienced archaeologists have seen a lot of things, so it's not always easy to impress them. When they describe a discovery as the find of a lifetime, it's usually worth listening to them. That's exactly how this megalithic passage tomb in Ireland has been described, and it's easy to see why. Located in County Meath, the monument has some of the most detailed and well-preserved pieces of Neolithic art ever found in Europe. With an age of approximately 5,500 years, it's likely that the tomb was built by some of the earliest farmers ever to work on the Irish land. The megalithic tomb is split into two separate burial chambers, both of which are extensively decorated with murals and carvings. The tombs sit below a large stone cairn and are surrounded by 6 strategically placed curbstones. Even the curbstones were well decorated. Building and maintaining the tombs was clearly a work of dedication and love by the people responsible for putting them together. The crazy thing about this discovery is that it comes from Bruna Boyne World Heritage Site, a place that archaeologists are already supposed to have explored in full. Finding a serious work of art made by an ancient culture is relatively easy for good archaeologists. Finding something that exemplifies the sense of humor of our ancient ancestors is far harder, but it does happen occasionally. In April 2016, this unique and beautiful mosaic was found in Hatay, Turkey. It depicts a cheerful-looking skeleton drinking a glass of wine and is accompanied by an inscription that translates into modern English as, "Enjoy your life." It's so unlike almost any other mosaic from that era that experts briefly wondered whether it might be a fake. But it didn't take long to verify that it's a genuine 2,300-year-old creation. Hatay is in what was once the ancient and great city of Antioch, close to Turkey's border with Syria. The skeleton mosaic might never have been found had it not been for the commencement of construction work on a new cable car system for the area, which necessitated digging up the ground. Experts believe that the piece was once the floor of a dining room in a grand villa. Another smaller mosaic found next to the skeleton depicts a man running from a sundial, which is also a reminder that life is short. The ancient Roman fort at Vindolanda in the United Kingdom has given up countless archaeological artifacts in the past, and will continue to do so for many years into the future. In April 2018, it gave up a one-of-a-kind solid bronze hand. The hand is the size of a child's and eerily lifelike. Archaeologists and historians who've examined the hand say that it was probably thrown into the ditch it was found in deliberately, and is almost certainly a votive offering. They also think that it had an attachment inserted into its palm, but the attachment is now missing. That's not a surprise, given that it's been in the ground for around 1,700 years. The artifact has a socket at its base, indicating that prior to it being thrown into the ditch, it had been fixed to a pole. Not far from the site of the discovery is an ancient Roman temple, dedicated to Jupiter Dolicanus, an obscure god who became the subject of a mystery cult that spread like wildfire within the Roman Empire between the 2nd and 3rd centuries. Severed hands have been found at other sites connected with the deity, but the reasons why are unknown. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in the year 79, the residents of Pompeii had no warning. There was barely any time to flee, and most of the people caught in the volcanic eruption were frozen in time in the precise moment they were in when the ash fell upon them. A few managed to get away though, which makes our next discovery all the more tragic. It's the remains of a man who appears to have successfully escaped the burning city, only to perish when an enormous rock fell on his head. Archaeologists think the rock might have been a door jamb. It wouldn't have been easy for the man to get away from the pyroclastic flow in the first place. An examination of his leg bones has revealed he was dealing with a severe infection at the time of his death, so he wouldn't have been moving quickly. He certainly won't have been the only person to have lost his life in the panicked attempt to flee the chaos, but his death might have been the most unfortunate. Luck really wasn't on his side that day. Modern China is a powerhouse of global production. That's why the label Made in China appears in so many places, from the clothes you wear to the objects you have in your home. It even appears on some of the contents of this 800-year-old shipwreck, which was rediscovered off the coast of Indonesia in 2018. The familiar slogan, written in its native language, has helped archaeologists uncover the history of the wreck, which is at the bottom of the Java Sea. They believe that the wooden hull of the vessel rotted away centuries ago, leaving only the ceramics and luxury goods that it once carried strewn across the seabed. It's the wording of the label that's helped experts to date the ceramics. It refers to the Chinese government district of Jianningfu. The area's name was changed to Jianninglu after the invasion of the Mongols in 1278, meaning the ceramics couldn't have been made later than that year. Other goods lost in the wreck include elephant tusks and containers full of sweet-smelling resin. This would have been an extremely expensive loss for somebody when it happened. Next, we go to the south of Mexico, where a 1,000-year-old Mayan canoe was recently found in Yucatan Cenote in San Andreas. The fact that the boat has spent the past 1,000 years submerged in a freshwater pool has preserved its wooden frame almost perfectly. The discovery happened not far from the legendary ruined city of Chichen Itza, so it's probably fair to assume that the canoe belonged to one of the city's residents. At 5 feet long, it was probably designed to carry 2 or possibly 3 people at the same time. Perhaps it was a family canoe. Fragments of boats like this from the same era have been found before in Belize, Guatemala, and Quintana Roo, but this is the first time one has been discovered still fully intact. This find comes as archaeologists hurriedly dig through an area of Mexico that's been earmarked for a new intercity rapid rail project. The project is not without its controversies, as it involves either building over or destroying land that once belonged to the Maya. But in the short term, it's caused a flurry of discoveries as archaeologists take what they can while they still have time. Scientists in Peru got a grisly surprise in October 2021 when they re-examined a gold death mask that was found in a Sican culture tomb more than 30 years ago. The mask, along with the skeletal remains of the tomb's occupant, was covered in a type of red paint. The paint was long assumed to be red ochre, which was used in many ancient burials all over the world for reasons we don't understand. A chemical analysis of the paint has revealed that it isn't red ochre. Instead, it's a mixture of bird egg protein and human blood. The Sican culture predates the Inca in Peru, flourishing between the 9th and 14th centuries on the country's north coast. They peaked during the 10th and 11th centuries, during which they produced stunning gold objects using metallurgy techniques that were advanced for the time. Unfortunately, the blood has degraded to the point where we can't say whether the blood came from the person buried in the tomb. Historians suspect that painting the bones with blood might have been a symbolic representation of rebirth into the afterlife, but that's only a theory. In September 2021, amateur scuba diver Shlomi Katzen went for a dip in the waters off the coast of Haifa in Israel. He didn't know he was about to make a remarkable archaeological discovery, but he did. Shlomi spotted an object in the water and dragged it back to the surface for a better look. He'd found a sword, and it was not just any old sword. This sword was either dropped or tossed into the water by a Crusader knight some 900 years ago. It's covered in marine organisms, but beneath its crusty shell, the 4-foot-long weapon is fully intact. There's a Crusader citadel not far from here at Atlit, so there might be a connection between the sword and the castle. On the other hand, this part of the coast provides perfect natural cover shelter for ships, so it could just as easily have been lost overboard from one. Whoever owned this sword must have been very big, very strong, or both. Its sheer size makes it difficult to wield, and because it's made of iron, it would be heavy even without its undersea coating. Maybe people were just fitter back then. Saudi Arabia has been focusing on its history recently in the hope of finding out more about its ancient occupants. It found precisely what it was looking for in September 2021, when scientists were able to prove that these enormous camel carvings date back to the prehistoric era. They're not just old by the standards of Saudi Arabia, they're likely to be the oldest animal reliefs of this size in the world. The carvings, which are badly weathered, were first noticed by archaeologists in 2018 and estimated to be around 2,000 years old, but that estimate was based purely on their similarity to reliefs found in Petra, Jordan. A more recent study proves that they're somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 years old, which is quite a difference. There's likely to be some controversy about the findings, though, because the date was taken from tests on animal bones found at the site, rather than anything directly connected to the carvings. If the date were right, it would make these faded camels older than the pyramids of Giza and the stone circle known as Stonehenge in England. It would also mean the carvings predate the domestication of camels, which begs the question of why they were made in the first place. The largest concentration of stone stela in Africa can be found in the Gedio zone of Ethiopia. In December 2021, we found out that the region's distinctively phallic stone megaliths are a whole 1,000 years older than was previously assumed. Ashanafi Zina, the author of the groundbreaking study, says that rather than being erected close to the year 1100, the bulk of the sculptures have been standing since somewhere around 50 BCE. The revised age of the monuments was arrived at after charcoal samples were taken from the bases of the stone phalli and subjected to scientific testing. There are several individual sites in the area that contain the megaliths, many of which have been neglected and now lay broken on the floor, but the most impressive collection can be found at Sakaro Soto. The new information has prompted UNESCO to consider making Sakura Soto a UNESCO World Heritage Site, even though we know almost nothing about why the stones were carved and arranged in this pattern in the first place. We don't know who lived here 2,000 years ago, so we can't even begin to guess why they did the things they did. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!